All great things come in threes, including kings, apparently. Alteration 8, Pacing. The Three Kings arc is 21 chapters in the manga and 18 episodes in the anime, which means the pacing is about the same as always. Which wouldn't be worth mentioning if we weren't about to address the last, and arguably most important arc in Yu Yu Hakusho, and how it came to be. Of course, no serious analysis of the Three Kings arc can begin without addressing the elephant in the room, Togashi's unfinishing serialization of Yu Yu Hakusho. Looking back on failure. Minosuke made the definitive Twitter thread on the topic, so I would just quote them. For perspective, Togashi worked on Yu Yu Hakusho from 24 to 27. He ended it because of the physical, mental, and emotional strain. Deadlines killed his interest in going any further. Togashi calls himself selfish, because despite knowing the standards Trump expected, he still wanted to draw manga on his own terms. This meant in practice drawing art that can attract others by himself, deconstructing the characters instead of repeating the same beats over and over, and maintaining a healthy work-life balance. None of which were allowed by the time he wrote the final arc and chapter of Yu Yu Hakusho. What this all says to me is that Togashi is a man who above all admires skill, liberty, and most of all, compassion. All of which were reflected in this last arc, and indeed through his works in totality, outside of some short stories, for which compassion for those who are different seems to be the consistent theme. Therefore, know that when I criticize all that is left out of the anime, it is not because I believe the manga to be far away and superior, just because it has these things. Clearly, the presentation and especially the slower pace of the anime do wonders for giving us a sense of safety or predictability going forward, so that the ending doesn't feel as abrupt. On the other hand, however, without what is contained in the manga, the anime ends up suffering from a lack of thematic depth that cannot otherwise be found in any other arc, due to the rest of the text's sole focus on Yusuke. In short, while the anime has the pacing to match an arc that will give the series the same level of complexity that Yusuke himself has, something the manga lacks, it in turn lacks that very content found in the manga that makes complexity possible. A tragedy if there ever was one. Alteration 9. Insert Yusuke and Kuwabara's dads, Koenma overthrowing King Yama, Mukuro's backstory. The recurring idea which pervades the entire work is what it means to come back to your life after losing everything. So far we have seen this theme examined through the story mainly through Yusuke and the adversaries he has faced, whether that be society, demons, humans who have turned into demons, or humans who think that society is the true demon. Now at last with the Three Kings, the final arc in the series, we begin to seriously explore this theme via two other central characters, Kurama and Hiei. With this understanding in mind, it should become clear what needs to be inserted from the manga into the anime to see it truly complete. Hiei's lover must be expanded upon, and yes, they are love interest, which will serve as the final parallel to Yusuke. Yusuke had a quaint desire to help people, which was in conflict with both his love for Keiko and love of violence, which represented self-love and self-development respectively. Much like how Yusuke's desire to help others only became the most prominent part of his character in the daily life arc when he didn't have a body, magic through the Tear Stone was also needed to finally have Hiei explicitly connect with another. This serves as the final parallel and foil between the two characters. Whereas Yusuke's story started off with the conflict between his desires being exposed through a supernatural trial, Hiei's desires all finally aligned, as he is able to fight for his woman to protect and bring order to the demon world, allowing for open expression of both self-love and love for others to be embodied through his development as a fighter. In order to finish fulfilling his role as a foil, Hiei needed a love interest of his own. Given how Hiei is, it takes a very interesting woman indeed to grab his attention, and if we don't feel like he would generally share a bond with this person, the whole project falls flat. I understand why they had to censor Mukuro's backstory, given its graphic nature, but such censorship generally hurts the art, as we can't know why Hiei so respects her resolve to keep on living, and in her own way enjoy life, in contrast with the ice apparitions, if we don't know the details of exactly why she had every right to give up on it. We've already established the expansion of Kurama's story in the anime is top-notch. Go check our video on the subject, the under-discussed dynamic of Kuwabara and Kurama, which goes in depth about the fight Kurama has with the samurai Shigure that was completely anime original. Needless to say, it was a great addition. But because Kurama's fighting for his family in a way, I think this dynamic between Kurama and the whole cast could have been improved upon further had we the contrast of Yusuke's and Kuwabara's dads. Allow me to explain. The first thing to note is that the process of taking in a story, be it reading a book, watching a show, etc., is not a single experience. Initially, one must become invested in consuming the story, and suspense of disbelief plays a huge role in that. Curiosity, anticipation, surprise, all these emotions can be stimulated to make a viewer or reader choose to put aside inhibitions and consume a fictional work. Because of this, there are some things that can be spoiled, generally speaking, without anyone making too much of a fuss about it, so long as that knowledge doesn't mitigate or even strengthen these emotions. We must ask why then. Did Togashi not even hint at the idea of bringing these fathers into the story till the very end? Was he just trying to achieve closure, for anyone wondering what they would look like and be like? Perhaps, but Togashi certainly isn't a man who takes meaningless actions, and I believe their inclusion served a greater purpose. To serve as was for the fully developed Yusuke and Kuwabara, Yusuke's father went with the flow, only to develop some sense of responsibility, while Kuwabara's father is very similar to his son and thus serves as a cautionary tale, should he link up with Yukina. Finally, there's the simple matter of keeping the fact that Koenma usurps King Yama. First of all, this is probably one of the most politically intriguing things that happens in the manga in general, and it happens in the space of only 2 pages of text panels, so let me read a few. Koenma is able to pull up evidence that King Yama brainwashed Class D demons and had them commit crimes, and he used this to justify protecting the human world, and they insisted on the forced separation of the 2 realms. And my favorite tidbit that was left out of the anime is that Sensui actually had a W here. By stealing Chapter Black, he became the whistleblower in this whole thing. So it's thanks to Sensui that this whole coup could happen in the first place. So not only does he accomplish his goal of destroying the boundaries between these realms, but this was also Raizen's idea from the very beginning, to see an age come to fruition where people can go freely through all the living realms. Second, it helps address the lack of politics in the arc that some mistakenly view as a flaw. To put it bluntly, people who wanted a war arc from this story are fools. As established, the main theme of Yu Yu Hakusho is coming back to life after death. More specifically, when it comes to the villains of each arc, the message was that they didn't understand that, to quote Yukina,
"If the only way our ice world can survive is for our people to freeze their hearts, well then, they don't deserve to survive. That's how I feel."
Yomi's abandonment of his hot-bloodedness must be shown to have been an error, if the themes were to remain consistent. A war arc of political intrigue where contestants must make raw political calculations and dampen their emotions would have done the complete opposite of that. On the other hand, Koenma's coup serves as either character development that reinforces this theme if we go with the anime version of this character, going from immature and reactive to proactive and embracing his own hot-bloodedness, or a final reminder that while certainly progress can perhaps be made, Koenma must always be suspected if we're going with the manga version of the character. A final warning against consistent, purely cold calculation, whether looked at from a pessimistic or optimistic lens. And truly, does that not represent Togashi perfectly? And that is the end of our series on what did and did not work in Yu Yu Hakusho. However, I plan to remaster all the first parts of the series and uploading it into one big video. So if you haven't subscribed already, please do that.